Good evening. Well,
oh dear.
Good evening, good evening, everybody. Thank you for joining us on this Monday show. That's what Chris was just about to say before his internet decided to break up. I think he might be back with us. We'll do the old Eurovision thing. Chris, are you calling, Chris?
Yeah, can you hear me? This is going to be a very long night, I worry. I'm on an emergency backup laptop because my first one, like the camera's gone to pot my first one. The Wi-Fi apparently seems to be playing up as well, so this could go swimmingly or be an absolute effing car crash.
Just can't get the stuff these days, guys, unfortunately. But we will try harder in the future.
How are we all anyway? Are we well?
Yeah, all good on my end.
To be fair, results-wise, Dave, along with myself, you should be the happiest one of the lot, really. We will come to that in a moment or two. Downsy, Gaz, how are you both feeling after your respective weekends?
I'm sure we'll discuss it. I know Downsy's very down, as he has been for a few weeks. I'm not that bad, to be honest. I'm all right. It is what it is. But I'm sure we'll come on to it in a bit.
Yeah, we're going to do. I heard Downsy on Lucy Radio Leeds earlier on. He spoke very, very well. And you did a really good job of masking your depression, in fairness, that's Huddersfield Town related. So, yeah, you did well.
Well, when you're on the BBC, you've got to put on a bit of a mask, haven't you? Where last night on Town Talk, I think the real depression happened, to be honest.
Yes, I would agree. We will come on to that a little bit later on. Don't forget, you can get your comments in over the course of the show. Easiest way to do so is just using the comments on YouTube, or you can use the feature on X as well, send your comments in. Likewise, with Facebook, we want to get your comments through, preferably ones that are relevant to West Yorkshire football and the goings on of the teams across our region. Dave Foy, then, we'll start with you, my friend. And for FC Halifax Town and for the non-league scene, it's been a busy weekend, certainly a busy few days for you in particular. We'll start with FC Halifax Town as the start point at the top of our non-league pyramid that they are. And for the Shaman, it was very, very good weekend again, coupled with a defeat for Southend away at Altrincham, a win in the late kickoff for Town at Chris Millington's Solihull, no less, sees Town end the weekend in the playoff places.
Yeah, another twist in the playoff hunt, isn't it? Yes, Southend lost away at Altrincham, so I don't know whether Adam Lakeland briefed his team beforehand or if word had got through. We're not particularly sure, but Adam Lakeland said, you know, we went into the game, we went into half time, should I say, 2-0 up, and he was a bit like, both his goals were a bit against the run of play. He said, you know, Solihull had a lot of possession in the first half. It was a game that I wasn't at in person, so I've only really got Adam Lakeland and match reports to go off. But yeah, he said, you know, Solihull had a lot of possession. He said a lot of stuff at the same time. He said we had a lot of possession, but we were comfortable, but we scored against the run of play as well. There were 3 excellent goals on the afternoon. Scott High got himself sent off for kicking out at J. Turner Cook in the second half, and by that point, Solihull were already 2-0 down, and by all accounts, pretty much out of the game. But it saw the return of the team of Thierry Fairweather, who I've not really covered in the last couple of weeks. I've sort of half forgot that he was injured, so we had a bit more balance down his left-hand side, saved Dylan Crowe trying to fill in that position. It were one that he struggled with for that hour against Boreham Wood, with him being predominantly right-sided. And yeah, we managed to introduce Florent Hottie for the last couple of minutes. He's been somebody that's been a bit out in the dark with Adam Lakeland. I can't remember if I said on this show about there was certain things that happened post-match versus Brackley about a month ago. If I haven't covered it, I'm not really going to go into it, but there was a little bit of Florent Hottie weren't happy that it was being played, and then he's been injured. Adam Lakeland hinted that he was injured because he hadn't warmed down properly after the Brackley game. But no, obviously happy with the 3-0 win. in terms of playing Chris Millington, he's been the manager home for Southampton. We've got an aggregate score of 6-0, so cannot complain at all.
Yeah, we'll come on to kind of Halifax in a second. Obviously, for Chris Millington, it's been a strange start, I think, for him at Solihull in his time there. Obviously, is a man that I think it's fair to say was overall pretty well liked from an FC Halifax Town persuasion. You know, even if the football wasn't exactly the most exciting, you've got to look at the results that he got during his tenure at the club. Obviously, since he's gone into Solihull, it's been a little bit hit and miss, probably more miss than hit, Angela, over the course of his time. But it also seems to be a squad that is continuously changing. I think he's still trying to work out his own kind of style and put a squad together that he wants. I suspect they'll be very busy over the summer, aren't you, Dave?
Yeah, I mean, I did the preview to the match that was on the official website, and Solihull have had quite a disastrous month. I think they lost to Gateshead, they drew with Brackley. They've allowed themselves almost to be dragged into that relegation battle, but we're not really here to talk about Solihull. I understand the link with Chris Millington. He seemed to have that new manager bounce for a bit. They were down, I think, in and around, if not in the bottom four when he took over. They put a string of results together, got themselves up into mid-table. But yeah, a little bit of... He said that they went into the game on Saturday a bit threadbare, which he was... You know, I mean, they're down to the bare bones, but he was always down to the bare bones when he was our manager. Those that didn't enjoy his style of play, and there's no getting away from the fact we scored 22 home league goals in 23 games last year. Like, our home record was really, really bad. We'll have covered it on this show. The pitch weren't great. There were a few injuries here and there. But the fact that we've beaten him 3-0 and 3-0 home and away has vindicated those critical voices of Chris Millington. I really feel he just had some bad luck. I think he did the best with what he was dealt over those couple of years. Every year was a success. The first year, bad start, picked up, got ourselves safe, won the FA Trophy at Wembley, 2 playoff campaigns, both hindered in different ways. This season feels a little bit different. I think if we get into the top 7, we're getting players returning rather than losing players as the run-in. As the season starts coming to a conclusion, we seem to be getting people back. Florent Hott is coming back, like I said. Thierry Latifewe's coming back. We've still got Angelo Capello to come back. Will Smith, for now, fingers crossed, is settling into that back line really, really well. Ash Palmer, who I touched on last week, made a huge difference. And I can only really reflect on what I said last week. It's a win-win for all involved. Ash Palmer's getting game time. He knows Sam Walker, our assistant manager from Stockport. And it doesn't do York City, his parent club, any damage at all, because he's up against other rivals, other playoff rivals. You know what I mean? He can disrupt below York City, his parent club. And then if and when or should we make the playoffs, he can just be recalled by York. Yes, it weakens us, but it's a bit of a win-win all around, other than he would be recalled. But he's a York City player for now. I think his contract runs out at the end of the season, and we've got a history of taking players on loan who are in their last few years of a contract, and then you find, or we try and put ourselves in the shop window. I feel a bit more confident, should we sign, if we're going to sign him permanently, that he already has that link with our assistant manager, Sam Walker, who will have played alongside at Stockport maybe about 10 years ago now, maybe a little bit less. But yeah, things are good at the Shea. We've still got things going on off the field, which have been going on since 18 months ago. There's still a little bit up in the air with what's happening with the ground. There's not really much more I can say on that. A few freedom of information documents have disclosed that the site also has a car wash on it and a car showroom. I'm not sure how familiar everybody is with the Shea Stadium estate. It's not just the stadium. There's also like a car wash and a car showroom that's near it. And they're both, if I'm not mistaken, they both pay a peppercorn rent for that kind of ground. I think the car wash pays something like £500 a year. The people that they leased or they gave the land away to that has Nissan on got it for free, and they sublet it out for 90 grand a year now. None of that money goes into the council's pocket currently. So
wow.
They seem to have created, I don't know how much I can say because I'm involved with Friends of the Shea and we're in a legal back and forth with the council, but I think I'd be safe to say the council's main reason for wanting to dispose of the site is this deficit of £500,000 a year. A few years ago, it was 250,000. In 2019, it practically broke even. So it's not making any money. I think I'm safe to say it's not going to make any money when you're giving away 2 pieces of prime estate for free, or you peppercorn rent one out for £500 a year. You know, they've disclosed, which I think is a great deal for both teams. I think the Panthers and the football team are charged something like £4,000 a month to rent the ground. I don't know whether that includes utilities. It hasn't been broken down anymore. So, like, everybody's on a pretty good rate, but then the pitch has been allowed to deteriorate to the level it got to. That's a whole different kettle of fish now. And I don't want to talk about that because it involves the Football Foundation. They needed to be, I think they needed a 21-year lease for Halifax Town to play there for them to get the £400,000 Football Foundation grant. That's not quite concrete. That's not quite airtight because of the potential sale to, well, we all know who the council's preferred bidder is. It's been named countless times. They've got the Huddersfield Giants and Kendavia have got their own problems. 700 in attendance for a Challenge Cup first round game against Hull KR. You know, they're going to be here from the next Super League season. Whether they're even still in Super League, the bottom, they've just sacked Luke Robinson. I'm kind of going off the point a little bit here. What I'm saying is both Huddersfield Giants and Halifax Panthers aren't exactly, it isn't all rosy in the garden for them too. Where we've got stuff in order on the pitch, but all of us off the pitch are still a little bit up in the air.
Yeah.
Our owner, again, I'm just saying the same thing. Our owner's not well. He hasn't really come out publicly saying anything. Officially, both clubs back the bid. So I've got nothing else to add other than those shocking revelations.
On that, time will tell. I'm just before we go on, I'm just going to bring our Leeds United man, Jayson Boocker, into the fold as well. Cheers for joining us, mate. Are you well?
Yeah, very well, mate. Very well.
Good. We'll carry on with Town, Dave, and just looking ahead really to midweek and the weekend.
Yeah, these are 2 crunch games. They all are. They have been since Boreham Wood, but Carlisle United tomorrow, they're off the back of a 6-2 win against Boston United. They did go in at half-time 2-1 down, though. I listened to Mark Hughes' post-match interview because I'm hoping to write the preview for tomorrow's game as well, and it was a bit, I don't know how to describe Mark Hughes' kind of attitude. It almost come across as bullish. It was a bit like, we didn't deserve to go 2-1 down, and guess what? We won the game 6-2, and everything went right. And, you know, I don't know, he weren't bigging himself up necessarily, but he didn't really give Boston a lot of credit for going 2-1 up. He was like, we deserved to win. We were losing at half-time, and guess what? We scored 5 goals in second half. I brought a player on the left who scored 2 goals and set a penalty up. Aren't I wonderful? I don't know. I mean, again, it's in-house media. It's for Carlisle United, really. So,
yeah,
just the way he came across was very bullish, in my opinion.
Yeah,
you know, Carlisle come into it off the back of that 6-2 win. We didn't perform well up at Carlisle. It's something that Adam Lakeland alluded to in his post-match interview. I was there. It's the one away game I attended this year, and yeah, Carlisle just held us at arm's length. It was one of those where we started well, we put a shot into the side netting. It's all if buts and maybes. Carlisle scored with their first chance, and it was 2-0 going on something like 6. Like Sam Johnson made 2 or 3 really, really good saves up there. They could have absolutely slaughtered us. So one thing going for us this season is whenever we've put in that kind of performance, we have always sort of put it right. We've tended to bounce back. To Adam Lakeland and his team's credit this year, we have tended to put things right like that. You know, we lost 3-0 down at Braintree, for instance, on the first game of the season and missed a penalty, all that kind of jazz. But we beat them 4-0 at home.
Yeah.
We seem to have put things right this season that we did wrong earlier in the year. No teams sort of seem to get one up on us. Sorry, Chris, I was talking over you then.
No, so I was just going to say there's certainly some cause for optimism then with Carlisle being the visitors tomorrow. And look, Carlisle have been a bit hit and miss on it. For me, it's a strange one. You're going to sound like Jay talking about Sunderland here, but for me, Carlisle have in a bit of a false position from what I've seen of them this season. Like, they were dreadful in both of their games that I saw against Rochdale, for example, this season, both home and away. So, yeah, it's a strange one. And then the weekend, you've got a short journey across to Altrincham.
No, we're at home to Scunthorpe.
Is
bloody hell, Chris.
Yeah, we're at home to what we have Altrincham. I think it's Good Friday.
Yeah, for some reason I have. Yeah, that's wait for. I've scrolled too far.
That's one game actually. I was just talking about. We've tended to put right what we didn't. By all accounts, the away game, like Scunthorpe, absolutely dominated in that game. Going off reports from what I can remember, we went 1-0 up. Scunthorpe had a player sent off and managed to draw 1-1, and they're going to come with a bee in the bonnet on Saturday, and we need to be ready for it. But yeah, it's Carlisle first tomorrow. I would take a draw now, even though, to be honest, it doesn't really do us any favours. I would actually take a point. I would take a point. Obviously, if we get 3, it's a 4-point cushion. No, 5-point. No, yes, 4-point cushion. Sorry, on Southend to have 2 games in hand, which means they'd have to not lose either of those 2 to overtake us. I think, to be honest, Wokin's season isn't over yet. They have 2 games in hand on us. They can go 4 points behind. We've still got to go to Woking on the 25th of April, but that's after our home game against Southend, so it may be done and dusted by then. But depending on what Woking want to do, and obviously you can't discount Hartlepool who are above. Woking could even ruffle a few feathers here. I think Forest Green, between now and the end of the season, on paper, have got the easiest run in. They've got none of the top 7 or 8 in that run. As we're well aware, we've got Scunthorpe, Carlisle, Southend. We've still got to go to Woking. We have Tamworth at home. I mean, I think they're just sort of going to finish mid-table. We've still got to go to Altrincham. We've got to go to Yeovil. They're all in the top half. We've struggled against bottom, sort of lower end of the table, though. So, that's sort of fine with me.
Yeah,
we up the game against those kind of teams.
To be fair to Tamworth, they came to Rochdale on Saturday and had a real good go. Narrowly lost 3-2, but they were setting the goalkeeper up in added time when they've got literally nothing of the season to play for. So it was they'll give them all they've got, put it that way. We'll move on from town and work our way down through the leagues. Obviously, guys, even though they're going to a 1-0 win on Saturday with a win over Whitby Town, and Elliot Owen goal, the difference there, the young lad that made the move from Stockbridge Park Steels to link up with Ian Richards at Netherlands, doing the business for that one. In the MPL East, a busy weekend as always, Dave. We'll start with Bradford Park Avenue. They hosted the league leaders at the Hawthorne Stadium in front of just under 900 through a turnstile for that one. A really phenomenally good crowd for that one. And a 1-1 draw against the Red Car Athletic side, who are basically the champions elect.
Yeah.
And just the point that I've not checked this for certain, but I would not be surprised if they are the leading goal scorers, not just in non-league.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. Yeah, I think they have the top 2 goal scorers at that level. Adam Boyes is certainly top of that table. They've got a plus 94 goal difference. I think they've scored 133 goals. It's just crazy. I did an article and I was talking about Grimsby Borough and I was talking about Silsden being mid-table and having minus 20 goal difference, but you've got Redcar who have got plus 94. Our own Bradford Park Avenue have got plus 23. I think there's 2 plus 36. One of those off the top of my head might be Emley. The top end of that table have got some crazy plus statistics. So teams, as I say, mid-table are like minus 20, minus 25 goals, and they've got 40-odd points because they've obviously just got demolished against those top 5 to 6 clubs. But yeah, I mean, you can't knock a 1-1 draw against Redcar off the back of what I've just said. Obviously, as you say, Bradford had 900 people in attendance, which is fantastic. They were giving out, I think, free tickets at the Bradford Bulls game on the Friday night, but they made it a day. There was a live band on. I think drinks in the bar, certain drinks in the bar were £2.50. They made like a community day of it, and obviously we've all got loads of experience and knowledge of BPA. I'm chuffed for them getting a point. It doesn't really do that much for their own playoff aspirations, but when you draw against those kind of runaway league leaders, you take it. You absolutely take it.
Yeah, very, very much so. Elsewhere across the Northern Premier League, Pontefract Collieries, they got a goalless draw away at Ashington. Emily got a 2-2 draw away at Bridlington Town. Blythe Spartans sadly beat Brighouse Town at Brighouse by 3-1, which we'll come to in a second.
Yeah. So in terms of that 3-1 defeat to Blythe Spartans, Derry Robson's had to take over.
Brighouse, we know, have been a bit of a talking point for a while. Talk us through their game of the weekend to start with.
So Derry Robson's in temporary charge. It was a strange vibe around the ground. I got there about 12:30, and Derry Robson and his team were. A few people felt like they might get a win here. There were quite an optimistic feel, despite everything going on around the club from Hove Edge. And they turned in a very, very spirited performance. I mean, Blythe Spartans at certain points had more possession. They seemed to hold Brighouse at arm's length, but it took until the second half for Blythe Spartans to open the scoring, and Brighouse managed to equalise. A great piece of play from the number 10, whose name eludes me for Brighouse. He basically held off a defender to allow Brighouse's 11, Curtis something. I wrote the match report and I've already forgotten his name. I'm really, really sorry. I think it might be. I don't know. I don't know what his name is, but he set up the 11 on the edge of the area by blocking a man off, and he just fired it across the goalkeeper for 1-1. So it gave him something to hold on to. But, Blythe retook the lead, bit of back and forth, and then they made the game safe at 3-1 in the 87th minute. There was still time for Brighouse to rattle the crossbar with the last kick of the game. So make no mistake, 3-1 was very, very harsh on bottom side Brighouse, who are now 10 points adrift of safety in, I think it's 18th now. But yeah, Blythe got the business done. Their fans were sort of singing "We're staying up," so I take it that they mathematically now cannot be dragged into the relegation zone. Brighouse did it, unfortunately, off the back of a 3-1 defeat also at the other club in Blythe Town away. I think they took the lead in that game, but they ended up losing 3-1. I think any slim chance of Brighouse staying up, they had to win that game on Tuesday, and they didn't do so. But yeah, no disgrace at all. Saturday, they as I say, a very, very spirited performance for the problems that they're having. I was also at Campion as well Wednesday. They're pushing for the playoffs in the league below. They were playing second bottom Rossington Main, who were the better team, especially in the second half. Campion barely had a sniff. It was all Rossington Main. They went 1-0 up, and Rossington pulled it back twice. Matty Niebard got himself sent off 2 yellows, but because of dual registration, he played for Brighouse against Blythe Spartans, which they can do because they're two different. Yeah. It's to do with county FA and stuff. I queried it with the committee and stuff at Brighouse. I tried to just make them aware in case they didn't know he'd been sent off for Campion, but they were like, "We know, but he's dual registered," and yada yada yada. But yeah, Campion they scored with the first piece of good play on Wednesday. They were very dangerous on the wings, but like I said, second half it was all Rossington. I think Lee Ashford felt after the game, I don't know if it was just that knee-jerk reaction, he was a bit like, I think the playoffs have almost slipped away from us. There were only a point outside it at full time, but his general demeanour seemed to be a bit like, we're going to have to win the last 3 basically to stand any chance of getting in. They did win at the weekend, and they're now 2 points outside the playoffs. They won 3-1 away at Penistone, but yeah, he seemed very downbeat after the game. But again, Campion, this is one of the highest leagues I think Campion have ever reached, if the highest. They've played at levels well below this.
Yeah. I'll run through the scores from elsewhere for the NCEL Premier Albion Sports. They got a 4-2 win over Parkgate. Horbury Town were beaten 2-0 by the aforementioned Rossington Main. Eccleston United were beaten on the road away at Knaresborough Town by 2-1. As mentioned, Campion, they got a 3-1 win away at Penistone Church. Tadcaster Albion beat Pickering by 3-0. And Thackley was thumped at home by 7-0 against Handsworth in the NCEL Division 1. South Leeds got a 2-all draw on the road away at Armthorpe Welfare. Route 1 Rovers lost 2-1 away at Crowell Colts. Surprise, surprise, the consolation goal for Route 1 Rovers came from Zach Khan. Glasshouse and Welfare, they lost 7-1 away at Goole. Leeds UFCA beat Doncaster City by a goal to nil. Wakefield beat Appleby Fronian by 4 goals to nil. Which means that in the NCEL Division 1, the bottom tier, Durham District top of the league on 98 points. Wakefield currently sits second on 84, ahead of Harrogate, Worsborough and Brigg, which make up the remaining playoff places. Leeds UFCA...
Durham have won that league.
Yeah, they have.
I think they wrapped up the title at the weekend.
Leeds UFCA and Route 1 Rovers, though, both sit just outside the playoff places. A 4-point gap between Leeds UFCA in 6th and Brigtown in 5th, but Leeds UFCA do have 3 games in hand. It's been a hell of a season for Leeds UFCA in their first season at this level. Meanwhile, we have to give massive congratulations to Danny Forrest. His Liversedge side were confirmed as champions of the Northern Counties East League Premier Division, so they will go back into the Northern Premier League East Division, of which they were relegated from last season, with a hell of a lot of new faces from their last time in that league, and they'll go into that full of confidence, I am sure. As for the other sides in our region, as for the playoff sides, it's Beverley Town in 2nd, Sheffield 3rd, Barton Town 4th, with Tadcaster Albion making up 5th at that final playoff spot. Level on games played, 2 points ahead of Campion, who realistically you would expect are the only side that possibly could get in there ahead of Tadcaster or maybe Barton Town. Handsworth are a couple of points behind Campion. Elsewhere, it's mid-table finishes by the looks of it for the likes of Golker, Freckles Hill United, Albion Sports, and, well, I wouldn't say exactly, but it's very tight, actually, in those bottom places. 3 points separates Rushington Main in 19th and Eccles Hill United in 14th. In that mix are, as I say, Eccles Hill, Albion, Thackley, and Horbury. So it's not quite relaxation time for 4 of the sides from our region at that level. We will leave the non-league scene there for now, unless, Dave, any other business from you before we move on?
Campion are hosting a game in honour of somebody, a Bradford City Legends game. That's, I believe, a week Sunday, this coming Sunday even. So they've confirmed a lot of Bradford City Legends. I think Dean Windass is playing, Danny Forrest. If I'm not mistaken, Campion have got a 40-plus man squad for that game. But a lot of ex-City legends from a variety of different eras from the last 40 years for Bradford City. So if you're a City fan, go along, because Campion are a wonderfully run club. They were incredibly welcoming and accommodating of myself on Wednesday. It was my first visit. So yeah, I can't speak highly enough about Campion, but I can't speak highly enough about all the teams that I ever cover or meet during non-league. They're all, we've said it all before, they're run by volunteers. There's a lot of blood, sweat and tears behind the scenes. There's a lot of people that go unnoticed within the club, and I can only really echo what every club says. If you feel you can do absolutely anything for a non-league club, just get in touch, just turn up. A bit like I did. I sort of half planned a Campion, but essentially I turned up and said, this is what I can do for the club, and they were like, yes, come in. So yeah, they absolutely survive off the back of hard-working volunteers. So yeah, got to support, like everybody supported Park Avenue. Let's get back to Park Avenue. 900 people backed it, but Park Avenue made it a day that you could attend. There's always something going on. I mean, Brighouse are playing this Wednesday. It's free to get in. Just donate what you want. I should really say that as well. They're playing Lincoln United. This Wednesday is free to get in. Just like I say, pay what you want. I think there's going to be buckets around the ground. So get along to that if you can. There were just over 400 for the Blythe Spartans game. Spartans brought over 100. I think the sponsors had 50-plus people. And other than running out of, shall we say, things you can drink, Brighouse, all in all, it was quite a successful day for Brighouse Town Saturday, other than result and the fact that they run out of beverages, certain beverages. But that's that's you know, that they're just crying out for that kind of support, and they're so grateful for it.
what a surprise that a northeastern club were able to drink the bar dry in Brighouse. Not a
No
shock.
comment.
We'll move on then from non-league. Just one or two comments that I want to just bring up. Jed says, "Morning, boys." He's of course tuned in from the complete opposite side of the world, listening, watching him from Australia. Says, "Great coverage from Dave,
Wow.
by the way. Respect." And also, I'm going to mention, I'm pretty sure it's the Leighton Orient fan that joined us last week.
Yeah,
My
this
name
was
is
the guy from last week.
Asking Fun Guy. He also does make the fair point that Downsy might need to wake up at points because with Downsy, it looked like you might have nodded off there, mate. Let's turn to the Premier League. We'll come on to League One in due course, but I'm aware that Jay hasn't got too long with us and wants to be off in about 15, 20 minutes or so. So let's talk Leeds United. I listened to UC Radio Leeds here in West Yorkshire Sport Daily after Downsy was on to talk Huddersfield, and they went on to the Leeds United game. And by all accounts, their assessment of the game wasn't particularly glowing. It sounded like a bit of a ball fest at Elland Road, in honesty, that late kickoff on Saturday.
Yeah, the game were absolutely honking, mate, to be honest. But that was contributed by both sides. Both sides sat up with a 5-back or a 3-5-2, however you kind of want to put it, and they both cancelled each other out, to be honest. Now, I think that says more about Leeds than it does Brentford, because Brentford are 7th in the league and are 5 points off a Champions League spot. They've got no fears around loot, unbelievable season, really. Everybody expected Brentford to be in the bottom 3. I think all of us predicted Brentford to be the team that a lot of us would replace us, and Sunderland. I think we're looking at them, and it's been proven more Wolves and West Ham, and we know what's going on at Forest and Spurs. So, Brentford have done unbelievably well, and considering the fact that they could have been 3 points behind the top 4 with a win, they didn't look like they were going for that win. Or they just respected us to the point where they thought that was how the best stood a chance of winning the game at Elland Road. And to be honest with you, I tend to agree with that, because we've seen that we're struggling to create chances against teams that set up with a low block. We don't have a lot of creativity within our side, and that's how they came, and they once again stifled us to not be able to score anything. But we get back-to-back clean sheets. So it kind of swings in roundabouts a little bit with this, and I'm very much a glass half full. I always tend to be where my club's concerned, and I don't see it as a terrible point. It's not a great result, but it's certainly not a bad one either. In a weekend in which actually we extended the gap to the bottom 3. So, yeah.
That's what I was going to come to, really. Is obviously there wasn't much talk to write home out in the game itself, and ultimately, I think we were talking in the group chat, and I saw you basically said, "Look, we're a point better off ahead of that bottom 3 than you were at the start of the weekend because of the way other results go." And if I bring the table up, if it comes up in due course, there we go. You were 3 points clear before the weekend, and lo and behold, it's now 4.
Yeah, I think we have to treat the season with a lot of context and perspective. We've lost 12 games this season, which is one more than the FA Cup winners in Crystal Palace. It's one less than Newcastle, and Newcastle have got the quality that they've got. And it's actually, I think, one less, I can't see, obviously the table's a little bit further up, than 9th place Fulham. So, yes, we're not winning very many games, but we're not losing a whole host of them either. We've lost one away game since we lost to Manchester City in November, and that was Newcastle away in that 4-3. Now, again, we've only won one away game all season. That was against Wolves way back in October, I think. But we've drawn 7 of the last 8 away from home. And then points do add up. And that is why we have the 4-point cushion that we have to West Ham with 7 games left to go of the season. So many of the Leeds fans, they struggle with applying context to where we are in the table, and the teams that we've got below us, Forest, Spurs and West Ham, they are all better than us. They have more individual talent than us, but the collective together allows us to be able to put enough points on the board that we find ourselves with this 4-point gap. Most people, I think, sensibly are kind of saying that we need 5 more points out of the remaining 7 games to see us up, and I just can't see us not getting that. So yeah, I think we've put ourselves in the best position that we possibly can be. There is some concerns. We're not creating as many chances as we were, but I think teams are stifling us in a different way. They've got more quality than us, so it stands to reason that they're capable of doing that.
Yeah, and look, because of the results at the weekend and the fact that West
Gone again. His internet, boys. His internet.
So yeah, Jay, I'll continue while Chris comes. Obviously, with the teams below you, like you said, you know, I mean, how do Leeds fans see the context of, for instance, you know, the Forest and Tottenham game the other day? I mean, it's kind of like they kind of killed each other, really, didn't they? In a sense, particularly, obviously, Forest got the win, so they got 3 points. But it's just all about Leeds concentrating on themselves, isn't it?
Yeah, I think, you know, most Leeds fans, I think, were wanting Forest to lose that game. But I'll be honest with you, I see it very differently. And I understand that. I think there's this mental block to why people think Spurs can't go down. They certainly can go down. If you're losing 3-0 at home to one of your biggest rivals for, you know, in the relegation battle come this stage of the season, they're more than capable of going down. I mean, they were shocking in that second half. They were much better than Forest up until Forest scoring, but from the moment Forest scored, the game was dead and buried, really. Spurs never looked like getting back into it. No. Spurs and Forest have both got really tricky endings to the season. And Spurs, above all else, in terms of comparison with the four sides that are down there, they look like they've got no fight. The second goal that they conceded yesterday, I mean, Forest just walked through them. It were embarrassing. So for me, I think it were a good result for Leeds yesterday in it being convincing to Forest. I think it puts them in a real difficult position. I don't think Forest will now just all of a sudden start putting loads of wins together, because that's not what happens to the teams that are down there at this stage of the season. Villa have been in awful form. They swept West Ham aside yesterday. It could have been 4 or 5 from what I heard. So I feel very calm about it. You know, once you get to game week 31, you're on 29 points, or 30 points in Spurs' case. They've taken less than a point per game, and it stands to reason that come game week 38 that they're going to take less than 38 points come that game as well. You know what I mean? They're not going to all of a sudden start blowing that out of the water. So I think 36, 37, 38 an absolute push is where we need to be, and we're 5 points off that. We can almost touch it. You know what I mean? So, and the comment that got flashed up there, we've got both Wolves and Burnley to play at home and West Ham and Spurs to play away. There's nowhere that you prefer to go than Spurs away right now. One of their home wins was against Burnley on the opening day of the season. You know what I mean? Like, you can't wish to go to a better place. And if you can't take at least 4 points against Wolves and Burnley at home, then you don't deserve to be in the Premier League anyway. So
I think it's interesting, isn't it? Like the mental side of the four side. You seem the most stable. Like you said, you know, you haven't got them real sort of standout star players, but you are the most stable, 100%. Who, all right, we all know that Leeds fans love to fly off the handle, but the club seems to be quite together. Forest, for me, you don't know what you're going to get from game to game. Spurs are just an absolute mess. I mean, obviously, the very sad news that Ida Tudor's dad sadly has passed away during the game yesterday. I mean, I don't know what you do with him now, because if you sack him, you seem like you're heartless sort of bastards, really, don't you? You know, and then you've got West Ham, who I actually think probably out of the 3 other sides, other than yourself, the 2 other sides, sorry, are probably the most positive under Nuno, because they've had a right upturn in form.
I think another thing they've said, sorry, Jace, is I heard it somewhere else. It's the idea that your West Hams and I know Forest had a good season last season. The one thing that goes against Spurs is people in West Ham and Nottingham Forest squads and Leeds' squad even, they've got experience of having to battle at the bottom of the Premier League, whereas a lot of Spurs players are maybe caught a bit cold, like I mean, Richarlison played for Everton and stuff like that. But all in all, I think Spurs are going to get caught cold because they don't have that experience of having to scrap for points at the bottom of a table. They used to play in Europa, and I mean, they're still in. Well, they're out of the Champions League, but they were in the Champions League until recently. I think that's the one thing that'll put them down. They haven't actually got that experience of struggling. They had a bit of a shitty season last year, but they were never really in danger of going down. Now they are. I think that's what will take them down.
I agree.
That Spurs performance were a worry yesterday because they'd actually improved against Liverpool and against Atletico Madrid in the week. They'd actually put in 2 half-decent performances. And then, like Jay said yesterday, they were all right until Forest scored. And then as soon as Forest scored, they completely fell apart. It shows how fragile they all are.
I mean, I didn't see the Madrid game, the Atletico game last week, so maybe that performance showed more. But I thought they were awful against you guys, if I'm honest, against Liverpool. I just thought Liverpool was so sloppy. And, you know, me and Brownie were talking about it. I think it were a bit of a misnomer. Brownie were like, oh, that's going to be it. This is going to be the catalyst that sets them up now, and they're going to start getting performances. And all that. They're not. They're not. And, they can't. I mean, I picked a 2-2 draw. I didn't think Spurs would win that game yesterday at all. I was probably a bit surprised with the way that they fell apart. But we shouldn't be. They've not won a game in 2026. We're now going into April.
Yes.
They've taken 1 point from 21. I think they've taken 5 points this year.
Yes.
But the thing is, they're not good at home or away. It's not like they could say. It's not like they could say, "Oh, his home form's really good, but an away form's really crap." They haven't even got that to fall back on because they're just as bad away from home as they are on their own patch.
They're really bad. I mean, they are the worst form team in the whole division, including Wolves and Burnley. They have the worst home record over the whole season. I mean, you know, they are rock bottom 20th at home. That's crazy when you think about it. That is a team that ends up going down, and it isn't going to miraculously start changing after game week 31. It's just not. Unless they have just a gold dust moment and go and replace Tudor with, I don't know, a magic man. But at this point, it's going to be Tim Sherwood or Harry Redknapp, and I would guess that both of them will carry on the disaster that it is because they're both out of work managers who are completely out of touch. So I just don't see how it gets that much better. The only thing that they have in their arsenal is potential players coming back that could change their fortune. You know,
love the use of Arsenal there.
Say again.
I love the use of Arsenal there.
The use of Arsenal, yeah. I really fear for Spurs. I mean, if I were outside of this relegation battle completely, I'd be looking at them and I'd be saying they're the ones that West Ham and Forest want to get. They're like, I don't buy into this like the too big to go down mentality. I agree more with Dave's kind of thinking in that they actually have less in their resource to stay up. They have less fighters, they have less battlers, they have less experience, all the things that you need to really fight and stay up. You know,
all the players will be onto their agents, won't they, Jay?
100%.
Saying, get me out of here in the summer. You know, I don't want to be on this thinking. I don't want to be playing. Can you imagine Tell wanting to play in the Championship? He won't want to play in the Championship. He'll just go back to Germany or
none of them will. Romero, Van der Ven, Vicario, Jed Spence, Archie Gray.
It's World Cup year, isn't it? It's World Cup year. They're not going to want to play. They're not going to want to play in the Championship. You know, knowing that they're going into this World Cup, it's just not going to happen.
Yeah, no, I agree. They will already be looking at exit clause. And this is what we had the season that we went down. It's exactly the same thing. You would much rather have a set of players that have got a real purpose and passion behind the project than even the talent. You know, there's
difference is there though, mate. You had a layer of squad that you knew that you were going to be able to have in the Championship. You know, it likes of Aileen and people like that. You know, Dallas. These have got nobody, have they? They've got Archie Gray, and it's a lot to put on a 19-year-old lad, isn't it?
Yeah, and I mean, even Archie would be kind of sought after. So it's a real tricky one for Spurs. I think, look, bringing it back to a Leeds perspective, I personally see us in I think we're in an okay position. we come back after the international break, Manchester United away. That's going to be tricky given their most recent form. But the rivalry and the heat of that match will hopefully see us get something on the board. I'd love to think that we could go to Old Trafford and get something there. We deserve to beat them at Ellen Road, but we played them at a very different time. And then we run into some real winnable fixtures. We've got Wolves at home coming up. We've got West Ham in the Cup, but that's before Manchester United. I forget Bournemouth away. That could be tricky. And there is another winnable home game in there. We've only got 7 games left to go now. I mean, it's unbelievable that we're so close to the end of the season. But I think we'll just have enough.
Yeah, I think I'm inclined to agree. It certainly seems that way. Jay, thanks for coming on and talking Leeds.
Yeah, fingers crossed. The international break goes without any hiccups to any players going away, because I think that's going to be a big kind of nail biter for Leeds. Hopefully, Calvert-Lewin might get a complimentary 10 minutes off the bench for England, and that'll be that.
I reckon he might get 2 490s if we're lucky.
We don't want to see that. We don't want to see that.
Oh, we do. Of course we want to see that.
Just quickly before I do disappear, who is all of your picks to go down? I know I keep on asking this, but I just think it's interesting to keep on getting your feelings on it as the season progresses, because I go all over the place with it.
You ask this every day, Jay.
I know, because I want reassurance. I want
Wolves, Burnley, and Tottenham.
You think Spurs will go, Dave?
Yeah, I do. I think they will, and there's rumours as well that they don't have stuff like relegation clauses in the contracts because it's just they just didn't think about it.
What Spurs do have is some good young players out on loan in PFL sides already playing well, and actually the Orient fan makes a fair point about Jamie Donnelly being on loan at Orient last season. He's on loan at Stoke. Now he's having a reasonable season, and they've got a few players like that. So there is some. I don't think it's all doom and gloom if they hit the Championship. It would just be a mass exodus because this is the thing with that Spurs squad, is it is just a hell of a lot of internationals and very little in terms of homegrown players in it. I actually think there's some quite talented lads in their kind of academy system and that have been loaned out. So, but.
They'd have to force a whole host of them to stay.
Still hoping that Leeds can get dragged down, because it'll be a lot easier away game for me next season.
What a prick.
Good night, Jace.
Yeah, what a guy,
I'm joking.
I from a Spurs perspective, they'd deal with it, wouldn't they? Just like Newcastle dealt with it, just like Villa dealt with it, just like Leeds dealt with it. One way or another, like they're not going to have financial ruin like Leeds did when we came down, and we still ended up finishing in the playoffs in the first season that we went down. I'm talking way back when, and even as messy as it was, we still then forced Willing Onto to stay as an example. Cree Somerville was still stuck around. Jorginho Rutter was there for years. They would handle it, but it would be messy for some of them, especially like the top profiles, Romero, Van der Ven, and the likes of them.
I can't help but feel that the more interesting kind of conundrum right now would be who the hell would be the manager? Who would do the Spurs job in the Championship? Because you need that
Daniel Farker.
Well, it's actually not an horrendous shout, but can I tell you the name that I would instantly go for is Kieran McKenna. I think Kieran McKenna would be the perfect solution for that situation. He's obviously did what he did with Ipswich in the first time, and then he's rebuilt their season this season. I know it's not going as well, but I think he's actually still doing quite well this season, all considering. Yeah. And he knows the club.
Lee Grant's available.
I think, but it is a great question. It's a great question.
Right, let's move on. Let's wrap up and rattle through League
I'll
One.
disappear.
How are you sticking around for a little bit of League One? Just to look at Downsy be sad and miserable for 10 minutes.
I'd love to stay and kind of go through this section with you. I might have it on in the kitchen. So, but boys, just keep your chins up. League One football, it's not all that bad. Lincoln smashed the division.
Says a guy in the Premier League.
Yeah, I mean, but I've been there. I remember, I remember them horrible fixtures.
Patrick Kisnobo and the like.
And the likes, Dave. What a legend he was, by the way. Yeah, I mean, comeback league grant all is forgiven,
No.
and Bradford
No.
still overachieving. So, yeah.
There we go. Cheers, Jay. Thanks a lot, mate.
See you, Jess.
Bye, Jay.
Let's turn then to League One. Well, look, usually we can do one then the other. Let's just go for it all at once. We'll start with you, Gaz, just initially on terms of your reflection of the weekend's result, I guess.
Nothing extra to say than I haven't said in the last few weeks. Our away form is dire. We are over-reliant on our home form. And eventually, I'm worried that the home form is going to crack because there's an increasing pressure being put on it. And we saw it with Mansfield last Tuesday. We dropped points at home for the first time in a while. Should have won that game. Drew 1-1. And then, obviously, he'd gone to Burton on Saturday. And another loss, like I say, I think it's 9 out of 11 games on the road. We've lost 9 of our last 11 away games. And that's why we look like we could possibly be the team that drops out of the playoffs. Just looking at the fixtures that we've got left, because we cannot buy a point away from home. We thought we'd turned the corner a little bit with the performances at Reading and Port Vale. And Graham Alexander's adamant that the performances are a lot better than they were at the turn of the year. But we're still not picking up enough, if any, points on the road, and that's what's going to cost us. Like I say, looking at the fixtures that we've got between now and the end of the season.
Downsy, a reflection on your results. Well, I was saying result of the weekend, but results over the course of last week, I guess.
Yeah, crap. Yeah, we went through it last night.
For half an hour on Tuesday night.
It was good for half an hour, yeah.
Yeah, it was good for town for half an hour on Tuesday.
Yeah, we dominated the tiny non-league club for half an hour. That was wonderful. And then the non-league club decided to, play their effective football style, which has done well for them this season.
I tuned out for a second there. What the hell are we talking about here? You're talking about non-league teams. What's going on, Downsy? Sorry, I had a brain fart.
Dave, you've had your non-league section.
I have. I just heard non-league and my ears pricked up. Sorry.
Yeah, sorry,
Downsy calls Lincoln a non-league team. He does it every week.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. Okay. Carry on.
Because we haven't been in non-league for 9 years. 9 years.
No, but you're still a non-league team. Anyway, back to talking about a dismal proper football club at the moment.
Something you can only dream of being.
Okay then. Yeah. So obviously it's we did okay against Lincoln, and then decided to sit back and let them have all the pressure. And then at the weekend went down to Plymouth. Liam Manning reflected after the game, saying that we couldn't get the basics of football right. Don't really understand what they do all week at training. Again, sort of started all right. Cam Humphreys got a wonderful individual goal. If anybody gets a chance to go and see it, takes on 4 Plymouth lads and sticks it in the back of the net. It's a fantastic goal. And that was as good as it got. And then, Plymouth just decided to turn it on. Obviously, Cleverley's got them going. I've never seen a manager come back from the dead as much as he has, by the way. It's quite remarkable, to be absolutely honest. They're now on the verge of nearly getting into the playoffs. I mean, if he got them into the playoffs, that genuinely might be as a shout of manager for the season from the depth of where he went to. But as for Town, I don't know what the kind of immediate future is, Chris, to be honest.
They've got a shitload of injuries at Plymouth as well, at the moment, because we were due to play them this Saturday, and they were desperate for the game. Their fans were desperate for the game to be postponed this coming Saturday because they've got so many injuries. Basically, they only had 2 international call-ups, and then they found out that the reserve keeper, I think, has basically just recovered for full fitness. So they've had a conversation with the Zimbabwe FA. Brendan Galloway is called. We've had a conversation with the Zimbabwe FA, and basically said he's fit enough. I might be wrong, Chris. I don't know. Anyway, they've had a conversation with the Zimbabwean FA and basically told him that a player's fit enough to be called up. So they've called him up, even though he's been injured. So they've now got the 3, and they've been able to postpone our game on Saturday. And the fans are delighted because they've got so many injuries at the moment.
Honestly, I love that. I think that's absolutely superb levels of shithousery. But also,
but they're winning. But they're still winning at the moment.
Yeah, in perspective, you also
like Downsy said, they've come from nowhere.
Yeah.
The other thing I'd say, Gaz, is obviously with the amount of injuries, the break probably will do them all right. Because you're going into the break with positivity, aren't you? You know, as a Town fan, we're going in with the absolute opposite of that. We're going in with negativity, and you know, we sit 9th at the moment, 3 points off the playoffs. People will go, "What have you got to moan about?" Well, you know, I said 3 games ago, I don't think we'll win another game this season. And the only possible one is probably Leyton Orient, maybe Wimbledon on the last day, but I don't think we'll win another game this season.
That's interesting because we've got an Orient fan in the comments.
Yeah, we have indeed. I've
woken up, by the way. I've woken up, lad.
It's interesting that you're so negative down. Like, obviously, you're really, really negative at the moment and really down about Town. And it was interesting. We had a little bit of a conversation in the group chat yesterday. I know Chris put in about Bradford City fans overreacting to what's going on at City at the moment. And it feels like some City fans are a bit like overly negative right now just because of that away form that I talked about, where we've lost 9 in 11 away from home. But when you put it into perspective, I'm just all about perspective with City and where we are and where we've come from. It's just ridiculous to be some of the stuff that they're saying about the manager and the players not being good enough. And when you think about where we are and where we were 2 years ago, yes, we're repeating a pattern away from home where each game seems to follow the same thing. We start well, we dominate, we miss a few chances, and then the other team scores with the first chance that they have, and then possibly scores again, and we go 2-0 down and lose the game. But I'm sure that we'll come out of it eventually. And yeah, I am worried that we'll slip out of the playoffs. But even if we do slip out of the playoffs, it's not been a disastrous season for City.
No.
It just on the back of that, Gaz, do you you've just said about, you know, not really understanding the negativity from City fans, and I totally get that. From an outsider looking in, but as of a rival team, do you think my negativity is of the wrong type? Because I was asked a question on Radio Leeds, which I know Chris listened to earlier on, and they played a clip of a fan who said that Town fans were being a bit sort of pathetic in the sense of how negative they were. We should be a happier, you know, that sort of thing. I mean, what's your guys' opinion of you know, my negativity towards the team at the moment?
Gaz, how about you go first on that one?
We've talked about it before, haven't we, on the pod? I think a lot of you the way you're feeling, Downsy, comes from the expectation that you have at Town. It's all to do with the expectation and where you thought you'd be and where you thought you should be this season. And yes, people will call it what they will call it, but you've spent the money, and the rhetoric that's come out from the club, from you, what you've said, and what I've read online at the start of the season is that, you know, the top two, it was top two, or you weren't good enough. And so when you're not in the playoffs, then I totally understand you feeling how you feel. It's not the end of the world. You're still in the top half of the league. It's not like you like we were, however long ago we were, 5-10 years ago, we looked like we might drop out of the league. It's not like that. But I get when you're not matching the expectation that you initially had, and the expectation that the club set out at the start of the season, and the money that you spent. I can get why you're feeling like you are.
The thing is, ultimately, there's a lot of sides that wanted to be top two, and ultimately, like, not everyone can be. Like, you look at the other sides that would have wanted to have been top two come the start of the season: Bolton, Stockport, Plymouth, Luton probably would have had aspirations of being top two having just come down. Like, plus Huddersfield, that's 5-6 sides, and that's not including Cardiff. So you know, yes, you can have aspirations for the top two, but football doesn't work like that. There's just
No.
We've said this certainly since Stam came down into League One full stop, that, you know, nobody's going to roll over for anybody and kind of let you take a top two spot sort of thing. Sides are there to compete, and look, there's sides in there that have overachieved. I'm going to put Lincoln obviously as the forefront of that, but you've got to look at Stevenage and Bradford as well that are sitting in those playoff places that at the start of the season very few people will have had. But again, it's football. Like, it happens season in, season out across all divisions. You get your sides that underachieve, you get your sides that overachieve, but ultimately there was probably 7 or 8 sides at the start of the season looking at getting places, and not everyone can.
If we don't get the playoffs, I mean, Chris, you saw a good example probably there on Tuesday night. You know, how many Lincoln fans were there? 1,500 maybe, something like that. It was a good following from Lincoln. But, you know, you take 1,500 as an average away from that crowd on Tuesday night, there was less than, I'd say, 9,000 town fans in the ground. There was probably about 8,000 town fans, and the crowd given was 16k. I mean, it was nowhere near 16k. It wasn't even half of 16k. So I'm very interested to see that what the club does with season tickets. I know I'm sort of going off on a stint here, but what the club does with season tickets if we don't get in the playoffs. Because I tell you what, even if he price freezes them, I don't think you'll get a lot of people paying the sort of money that we've had to pay this season for more false promises next season. And I do tell you this, I won't be predicting Town to get in the playoffs next season. I'll be predicting them to finish mid-table, 12th at best. And if we get anything higher than that next season, it'll be a nice surprise.
I think the one thing sorry, guys. I just wanted to come back to kind of your comment on in particular about Tom Cleverley earlier and obviously the job that he's done as a bit of a testament for sticking with the manager. There's 2 good examples sat here of sticking with the manager, because I was reminded earlier that a year ago, I can't remember where we were, but Lincoln had lost 4-1 away from home, and there were boos and chants of Skabala out and all sorts from certain sections of the Lincoln fan base after that particular performance, after it on a bad run. And you look at where we are now, 12 months on, and then look, we've said it with Gaz as well. The City fans, when there was a poor run in League Two, that wanted Alexander to go, and lo and behold, look at where you are now, sort of thing.
I think Bradford need to just take stock of what they've done. I get momentum's a big thing in football, but I think they need to. Some supporters, it sounds like, need to just take a step back and be like, and think about what Gaz has just touched on. I don't know, 2-3 years ago, there's sort of, are we going to get into the League Two playoffs? Are we not? Blah, blah, blah. The 4th in League One now. And they're doing it, Bradford are doing it in inverted commas the right way. They're winning the home games, which is where most supporters are going to see you. What I said to you offline, Gaz, I think I want to bring online now. 2 more wins, and I think you're probably going to get in the playoffs. The issue is the playoffs 2 legs. You've got to go away from home. And if you get to the final, what do you count Wembley as? I know it's neutral, but it's still not Valley Parade. Yeah, momentum's everything, but I think Bradford need to take stock of where they are and what they're doing at the moment, and just take it in a bit more.
There's 2 things I wanted to say. One of them is based on what you've just said there, Dave, about City. Dave thinks we need 2 wins to get that top 6. I think we probably need 3. But I'm looking at the fixtures that we've got left, and considering that we've lost 9 of our last 11 away games, these are the fixtures that we have at home. So it's considering we're unlikely to pick up points away, given how it's been. Our home fixtures are Northampton at home. We're going to have to win that because of where they are in the league. We're going to have to win that. The remaining home games are Stevenage, Bolton, and Plymouth.
Yeah, tricky.
You can see why I'm starting to think, given our form away from home and what we've got left at home, why we could struggle to get those 3 wins that we need to I think we probably need to get the top 6.
What are the away games like, though, Gaz?
Away, we've got Wickham, Barnsley, and Exeter.
Exeter should win. Barnsley's a Yorkshire derby, and Wickham. That's tricky fixture going all the way down there. It's it's
you lose at Burton, you can't be predicting, and you just can't. If you put Burton as a win on paper, you can't start trying.
Yeah, but to be fair to Gaz, he always does say that Gary, who is it? What's his name? Gary Bowyer. You always say that Gary Bowyer's sides always play better against Bradford anyway, don't you? To be fair.
So just
it makes it tough.
Yeah. I'm going to bring a couple of comments in from a town perspective. Jed says we've had all season how awful League One is this season. Unfortunately, Town have contributed to that. For the second half was totally unacceptable, disgraceful defending. James, the depressing thing, Downsy is linking everything we should be. Let's give the best football we have to Plymouth. They don't look. They go in the playoffs above. They're raving about Herbie Kane. Oh, and of course, there's the Taylor situation as well. No,
that's just embarrassing. By the way, he's scored 9 goals now at Wigan. He's scored 9 goals since January, right? And he's only scored, I think it's 3 for Town in his time at Town, 4 maybe.
Why are they not recalling him?
They can't, David.
Oh, okay.
We couldn't even recall him a day after we sent him out.
That's why it was so daft to let him go and then change manager. If you're thinking of changing manager, you don't let him go, do you?
No,
it's just pathetic. I mean, whoever thought that was a good idea? Honestly, he's mad.
You've missed one comment, Chris, on Town. It's the latest one that's come in from Jed. And that was, a minute ago I said I had a point on City and then I had a point on Town. Well, he has touched on what I was going to say about Town when he said there about how much longer is Nagel going to carry on splashing the cash. Because if your attendances are dropping, and obviously the fans are getting angrier and angrier and more discontented, how long does Nagel keep pumping money in Downsy?
Well, can I just add a little bit onto that as well? Because just to kind of finish off the point I was trying to make before about when you look at the pressure that cleverly have been under at Plymouth and the fact they've stuck with him, they openly came out and said they were backing him, and they now seem to be kind of reaping some rewards of that. Combined with what we'd said about like Gabala 12 months ago, and obviously the Alexander example as well, is coming back to as Gaz says about the money and the financial side for him. Is Nagel going to want to keep throwing money at it, and can he keep throwing money at it? And secondly, where do you think this is going to leave Liam Manning? Because if the fans aren't happy with it and not liking the football, they're getting frustrated. But ultimately, as we've said about City for the last decade, pretty much, there's going to be a time when you stick with the manager and give them time.
Yeah, so I'll take the first point. I'll take the Manning thing first. Manning will be the manager next season. I just honestly cannot see them sacking Liam Manning. I can't. I find it mind blowing if they decided to sack him. It's Chris Markham's first appointment, so he's going to want to give him at least the summer, I would have thought. On your second point, Gaz. So by the way, that first point is kind of mute for the fans because we're already not liking what we're seeing anyway. So it's kind of, and we can't do anything about it. So we're just going to have to suck it and see, aren't we? Unfortunately. The second point is the Nagel thing. So the answer, Gaz, is quite simple. I don't think he has got a choice. I think it's two strands really. One, he's not going to be able to spend as much as what he has this season or last season because the rules tighten up in the summer. So he's not going to be able to spend the same amount of money on wages, on transfer fees and the like. So I don't see us spending, a 1.2 million quite so frivolously on such as Alfie May. But I think the reason that he'll want to try and spend as much as he can is because he needs to get himself out the hole that he's got himself into. It's quite clear, or maybe not quite clear, but I think it is fascinating to see that, you know, he's made all these promises in the past. Premier League within 3 years, you know, top 2 or nothing. That I think his sound bites are coming back to haunt him. And, you know, he's now got to dig himself out of this hole to have any chance of selling the club. Because if he wants to sell it as a League One football club, yes, we own our own stadium, but there's nothing really there. There's no other thing that's making a decent owner wanting to come in and buy it off him. So the only way to sell it is by getting promotion. And let's be honest, I think his whole idea was probably to buy Town, maybe get us towards the top end of the Championship, hope, you know, rely on a miracle like we had before and get promoted to the Premier League, and then flip it and sell it on for a profit. It's just gone absolutely horrifically wrong for him now, and we're in League One, and we don't look like we're going to get in the playoffs in League One. We don't look like we're going to get promotion, and it looks like we're going to be in this division for a very long time. So I think from a legal point of view, he's not going to be able to spend the money next season, but I think he'll want to for his own sort of vanity and wanting to get himself out of this hole that he's ultimately dug himself.
So next season, and look, we'll wrap up in a minute or two. But I just want to touch on, you know, it's all right kind of saying, well, you know, we'll get through this season, come to next season. But next season, by the looks of it, could be, frankly, more difficult if the likes of bloody... I mean, you look at the sides that are going to come down. Wednesday, it looks like they'll start with a points deduction in League One season. But then you're looking at 2 out of, 5 of West Bromwich Albion, Leicester City, Blackburn Rovers, Oxford United, and Portsmouth. And it doesn't matter which of those 5 come down. Like, your best case scenario is obviously Oxford United and Portsmouth, probably. But whoever comes down out of those are going to be aiming for, surprise, surprise, those top 2 spots, especially. Can you imagine if it's Leicester and West Brom? Jesus, whack. Like,
geographically, Blackburn and Sheffield, I suppose it's a more nationwide. The net's cast a bit more nationwide, but it'd be difficult, I think, for Blackburn to come down for Huddersfield, because if you're looking for sort of more localish players, you've got 2 huge pieces of competition on your own doorstep as well.
Yeah, it's just going to be absolutely
same for City as well. Obviously, there's going to be 2 teams coming down that will be fishing in those same ponds.
It's just going to be absolutely mad, and it's the same for both Huddersfield and Bradford if neither of them were to go through the playoffs this time around for next season. Because it's, as I say, from a Town perspective, that whole top 2 thing and whatever money Kevin Eagle invests on the squad and the pitch, like, there's a real chance that come November, December Town are going to sit 6th. Do you change manager? Do you stick with him? And the cycle continues. Just quickly want to touch on, just get Jed's comment up. We turn strikers into dross at Town. And the other question is, why are they all falling out with the management and want away? Alfie made the latest that's rumored to want away. Unbelievable. Jazz, I know you've got a couple of points that you want to kind of finish up with one either side of the rivalry between Bradford and Huddersfield.
Yeah, well, first one's just carrying on what we were talking about there with Nagel, really. Obviously, he's in that position. He's got into that position that other owners have got into, and we've seen it at City, where the sound bites are coming back to bite him. Like Downsy said there, obviously we had it with Sparks, he's not the owner, but obviously he's the CEO at City, and we've had it with what Reich said at City, and then with Rupp, who's the actual owner, in a similar way to Nagel, only on a much smaller scale because he's not got the money that Nagel's got. But does there come a point where he just goes, I've had enough, and he just sacks it off and sells? Or is it a situation where money, a man who has that money does it, he doesn't do it by writing things off, and he buckles down and he firms up what he wants, what he's wanted to do from the start, and he sticks at it until he gets to a stage where he can at least get his money back or fulfill his promise to get you up to the top end of the championship and then sell at a profit, like you said. Do you think that's more likely? Because I think that's what Rupp's basically done at City. He's refused to write it all off, and he's basically taken the view that he needs to get us back to at least the level we were at when he bought us in order to get his money back and not have his reputation damaged. And I suppose that's what it'll be with Nagel as well, because as a rich man, you don't write assets off and you don't damage your reputation by sacking it off. He's going to have to stick at it, isn't he, Downsy?
Yeah, 100%. But he's not going to get his money back if he sells it even at the bottom end of the championship, mate. He says he's put 100. Well, according to his figures, he's put over 80 to 90 million pounds into town in the last 3 years that he's owned it. So near enough 100 million pounds. You're not going to get 100 million quid for town. You won't even get 100 million. You wouldn't even sell town for 100 million quid in the Premier League. Never mind mid-table League One or bottom end Championship.
How much did he pay for it, Downsy?
So that is unfortunately not known due to sort of being behind NDAs, as far as I'm aware. However, Dean Oil did put us in administration at the time. It wasn't like a liquidation type administration where a bit like the Wednesday thing. It was more like a holding position. Because he didn't want to really put any more funds in, but obviously he was never going to let the club sort of sink and fail or whatever. So I don't know. I could hazard a guess at around maybe, I don't know, something like 20 million, 30 million, something like that maybe.
Jed and James, rather differing views. Jed reckons around 53 million. James, a quid.
A quid.
He's 80 million in, all in now. He's 80 million in. He needs to stick it. He's not gonna. I agree.
Well, he says that all in told over the 3 seasons, he's put somewhere between 80 to 100 million pounds into town, which is just take that into context, guys. Right? He bought us as a championship club.
Yeah.
He bought us as a championship club. We're now 9th in League One, and we're no further forward. The only part that we have is that we've bought our own ground.
You know what? That's probably quite a chunk of millions, to be fair. The whole
not really, not really.
Everything with it.
Not really, because he's bought it probably on a minimal fee from the council. The Giants weren't asking for a lot of money because obviously they can't demand a lot of money. So, the ground isn't worth millions and millions of pounds. The land is.
Yeah, it's everything around it as well.
So the land. So this is the thing. There's 53 acres of land, but he doesn't own the rope walk pub. He doesn't own the cinema complex, which everybody believes comes with that site. The golf putting thing, driving range that was behind the stadium was sort of derelict anyway. So he's not had to buy like things that are on the ground, on the land. So yes, it's worth something, but the council wanted rid of it like they do in Halifax, and Ken Davey just wants probably a nominal fee for him to help keep running the Giants. So this is what we don't understand as town fans. What has the money gone on? It's obviously gone on players and wages. That's what it's gone on.
Yeah. It's interesting because obviously we talk about it with City as well. A lot of City fans think that we would be a club that are prime for a takeover, given the momentum that we've got, the fan base, etc. But I'm convinced that the thing that holds City back from a takeover is a couple of things. Is Rupp will want at least his money back, which is obviously the money that he paid for the club in the first place and the money that he's put in since then, which is nowhere near the scale that you're talking about with Nagel, where he's saying 80 million, but he obviously saw us through COVID and the losses that we had through COVID, and obviously the bigger budgets that he's supplemented to get us into League One, and then the budget that he's saying he's put together to keep us towards the top end of League One. So I'm convinced that him wanting all that money back, he's probably talking maybe, I'm guessing 10, 15 million for him to get his money back all in. And then we don't own the ground and we don't own the training ground. So I'm convinced those are the three things that hold City back from any potential takeover. But yeah, it's quite interesting when you look at it on that scale. The other thing I wanted to talk about, before we wrap up, Chris, I wanted your guys' opinion, given the games that I've just said City have got left and what you think we need to get in. Do you think we'll stay in the playoffs in these last 7 games, or do you think we'll drop out of it?
No, I think you'll stay in it. I don't think you. I think your away form can't continue to be as crap as what it has been, guys. You'll pick up enough points. Whether they'll all be the 3 wins that you say, might be, I don't know, 2 wins and 2 draws, or 2 wins and 3 draws, or something. But you'll be fine. You'll be in the playoffs.
I also think you'll be in the playoffs, but I don't quite know how. It's
I think you'll get that.
Yeah, I think you'll stay in, but it might be by this, flying by the seat of your pants sort of thing.
I don't think you'll go into it in form. I think you'll just be there.
No. Clinging on kind of thing. Yeah, I just worry, given, like I said, the fixtures that we've got, that we can't buy a point away from home, and our home form looks tough. Our home games look tough. Yeah, absolutely. We'll wrap it up there. We'll leave it there for this week. We're back next week with our usual Monday night roundup. Potentially, it might be a little bit different next week. With time will tell. We know with obviously no Bradford game, no Huddersfield game, no Leeds game. It depends on people's availability. We'll see where we're at. Big thank you to everyone that's joined us over the course of the evening. Got your comments in. Big thank you for doing so. If you are catching us late or you've just started, do leave some comments on it as well. We do enjoy and appreciate the feedback most of the time. Anyway, keep an eye out for Brownie and Jay. They will have probably some Leeds-based content despite them not being in action at the weekend. So check out our social media for that. And then Downsy and the Town Talk boys will be back a week on Sunday, I suspect, after Town's next games. When they come around. For myself, though, and from Gareth Walker, Dave Foy, Stephen Downs, and from Jayson Boocker, who joined us a little bit earlier on. Enjoy the rest of your week, and we will see you soon here on the West Yorkshire Football Show. Take care.